Welcome to Monster Men.
This is the greatest show on earth.
Oh,
Or so we tell everybody. But actually, this is a great show because this marks, I think, our special guest. You can see smiling over here, Janine Pipe. You were first on the show, I think, a little over a year ago.
That's right, yep.
So yeah, you're making a return visit because we are talking about how the sausage is made. Your incredible new book, Sausages, all about your obsession, which we knew about 2 years ago, dog soldiers. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. It's very nice to be here.
Oh, I'm just glad to see you. Ever since you said you were doing this book, you disappeared from my life.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a slog getting it all done in time, but yeah, the hard work has paid off, hopefully.
this thing, you may feel like you've been working on this forever, but from my perspective, like I first met you, 2 years ago? And,
Yep.
and just in our conversations and podcasts we did, you were always the dog soldiers person. And we were always like, yeah, I love that movie. But wow, Janine just loves that movie.
Every time.
Then suddenly it was, it'd be a dream of mine to write a book about it. Then suddenly you're doing it. And now it's coming out. I mean, that was pretty damn quick. A lot of people are like, hopefully in 10 years from now, I can do this. You were just like, what's next?
I know. My monkey's paw has only got one finger left on it now.
Well, you did it was like that thing, The Secret, where you put it out in the universe. Jack and I could talk about, oh, we're going on vacation. You'd be like, you should watch Dog Soldiers before you go on vacation. It's like you're just always out there. Uh-oh, she's disappearing. She's just been attacked by a werewolf.
It's the ghost again, yeah. Right.
I love it.
Yeah, right. Always.
It's all right.
Now it's the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, can you get a runny nose and be scared?
I'll get some snot in a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a camera's trying to pan down to your Monster Men shirt.
It is, yeah, which I got especially, and I don't even know if you can see it, but yes.
Yes.
Oh, we can.
I rep it when I can, obviously.
I've got American Werewolf in London because I don't have a Dog Soldier shirt. I'm sure you have 10.
3. Only 3.
Only 3?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've never seen Dog Soldiers merch anywhere.
Yeah, you have to look really hard for it, like Redbubble, Etsy, that kind of, yeah. There needs to be more. Maybe that'll be the next thing, Dog Soldiers merchandise.
This book might do it. Like Fright Rags might be like, oh, you see that? We got to get some sausages shirts going now.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Red Sox stuff on just for you today, Janine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
No. So you announced, I swear, I feel like it was December. Was it December 2021 when you said you were getting this gig?
Yeah.
Okay. So here I am with an arc in my hand that I figure is going to be this small book that's like almost 400 pages. How was this possible?
Just focusing on it, just 100%. But of course, in between doing all of this, I had like all the slasher stuff to put out as well. So it was really hard to try and fit it in. But I think what helped was because I am so passionate about it. There was literally nothing about it that was a slog to do. It was enjoyable, getting to talk to the people, finding more and more stuff out about it. It was just, I was dying to sit down and get on the laptop and write. So it made it a lot easier that it was just something which I just love so much. So it was never hard to do it.
Right. Yeah, my thing is I'm just thinking it's not just writing. It's interviewing and getting, because in the book there's movie stills in there, and there was some of the diagrams and drawings that they make, bits of the actual screenplay. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I was very, very lucky to have Neil on board entirely, and he's helped all throughout the process. So, I've had about 5 or 6 Zoom meetings with him, constant contact on email and stuff. So a lot of that has come from him. And without having the director on board with it, it would be almost impossible. Excuse me. Right. So the photos and things, a lot of them have come from him that have just been sat on a CD-ROM in his sister's garage for the last 20 years. So Actually, it was like, and with the script, he didn't even have a digital copy of that. That was just pieces of paper. So actually, me kind of like contacting him to do all of this has made him like get it all sorted and put onto PDFs and stuff, so that it's like now it's, like if there'd have been a fire in his sister's garage, that'd be it. It had all been gone. He wouldn't have anything from the movie. So
Right.
in a way, he kind of thanked me as well, that it gave him like a kick up the arse to get all of it digitalized and put on his computer and stuff.
So was this your just passion project that you contacted him? Is that how this all started?
It started because with it being the 20th anniversary this year, I really wanted to do something to do with it. So I contacted a couple of magazines to see if I could write a feature about it. That was Screen Magazine and Fangoria. And both of them said yes. Obviously, so long as I spoke to Neil, because otherwise it would just be me writing about something. Whereas obviously if you've got the words from the director, it makes it a lot more authentic and all that kind of stuff. And I contacted Neil's agent and said, hi, big fan. Please first speak to Mr. Marshall, because I've got a couple of interviews I'd like to do. And thankfully they said yes, and then that was it. It all just massively kind of like steamrolled from there. And it was actually Neil that said to me about writing the book as well, which is kind of cool.
Wow. That's even to get through to him.
Yeah.
First of all, I would give anything to see your first like Zoom call. You must have been fangirling and knowing you.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you look back at it now, if it was recorded, you'd be like, oh God, what did I do? Or did you hold it together?
No, not at all.
Nice.
But with all of them, but actually I think because I've come at it from the kind of point of view that I am a massive fan and that this is a celebration. So I was very clear from the start that I didn't want anything, I don't want any controversy. I don't want any snidey, what was Neil really like, comments, kind of all that sort of stuff. I wasn't looking for anything like that. I wanted people to tell me the fun that happened on the set and all of that kind of stuff. So because I made that very clear that I wasn't trying to, get my way in and then find out all of the horrible stuff, which there didn't seem to be any anyway. People are far more than willing and open to tell you stuff because they can see that it's something that you love. And, as a creator, they want to be able to share that with you. So it made it quite easy that as soon as I started talking to people, they were like, oh, this is someone that's genuinely really interested. And I had like my Dog Soldiers t-shirt on, and like the actors were like, I love your t-shirt. And I was like, super fan.
To say the least.
I'm just so honest and down to earth with the whole thing. It just made it easier. But yeah, Sean Pertwee and Kevin Mckidd, I was literally like, I'm such a big fan.
Oh God, did you record any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. That's what we want to see.
Because of obviously being able to transcribe the actual interviews and stuff as well, because a lot of the conversation that we had obviously went into the book, and I knew I wouldn't be able to write any of it down when I was talking to them because I was just too busy going, oh, I love you.
Just trying to hold it together here.
All right, let's back up for 1 second. Just for anybody who's watching this, let's talk a little bit about the movie real quick. For me personally, I watched Dog Soldiers again this past week to prepare for
Where
this.
did you see it? Because I couldn't find it on
YouTube.
Get out. I'm looking for legit like places. All right.
It is a hard movie to find. This is one of the problems, at least in the States. It's never been a movie that's easily accessible. So I believe that's my third time I've seen this movie. And the first time I watched it, I liked it, but I didn't get that it was supposed to be kind of funny.
Okay, yeah.
So it took me a little off guard. And then when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, okay, there's a lighter subtext or whatever to this thing. Then this time when I watched it, now suddenly I'm like, okay, so I knew this already, but the guy who played Alfred in Gotham, the guy from Game of Thrones, suddenly, and there's another guy who's been in a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, oh, now I realize I know guys from this movie that the first time I saw it, it didn't register with me. So I think when we were talking about it on one of the podcasts we did, it's always in my, what are the best werewolves movies? It's always in like in that top 5, 10, whatever, but it just doesn't have the exposure that a lot of others. How about Hunter? What's your kind of...
I will tell you, I've seen it the one time. I saw it on cable probably a couple of years after it came out. And Jack's right. It's not easy to find here. It is. I've always thought it's one of the top werewolf movies out there. Look, the competition is pretty terrible. But you do have American Werewolf in London. You do have The Howling, Brotherhood of the Wolf, maybe. This is right there. I always thought this was top 5, but I really could never find it. And I had forgotten about it until we met this blonde girl from England who kept talking about it. And I wanted to watch it again before we did this, but didn't get a chance. Instead, I went through the Ark. And I was like power reading that this morning, it's really, this is everything. If you love a movie, this is your companion piece to the movie because it's got everything you could really ever want. And I like the fact that you kept any controversy out of it. This is just about the love of the movie and the making of the movie and all the behind the scenes bits. You saw how the sausage is made, and that's what I love.
So, Janine, where did you start with this movie? Like, what's your fan story before we get into the book?
So I actually saw it when it first came out back in 2002. But
in Corfu.
In Corfu, yeah.
I remembered something.
Yeah, that it was like in a cinema somewhere, but it wasn't. It was in a bar on a Greek island, and it was like, I can remember the barman came out and hung like a big white sheet up and had like a really dodgy projector. And I was with my husband, and we were both a little bit drunk anyway, so that all I could remember, and it was such a dodgy pirate, one of those ones back from like then where you could literally see the people getting up in the cinema and like walking in front of the camera and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remembered really enjoying it. And then a couple of years later, found it in a Blockbuster for rental. So I was like, oh, I remember that film. I'm going to get it. And we watched it and realised that, you know, I did actually really enjoy it. All I could really remember from that dodgy first time was Sean Pertwee's Sausages, as we always called it. I could just remember that it was a werewolf movie and that Sean had all his guts pulled out. That was about all I could remember. And then rewatching it, it was just like, oh yes, this is amazing. And because I'd had that kind of policing background as well, like the banter and everything, which sometimes it is so British. And I know that sometimes it gets slightly lost in translation when Americans and other people watch it as well. But it is very, very British. And that resonated as well, just that camaraderie and everything. And I've just watched it religiously over and over and over. And I said, even when I met you guys, and it was probably one of the first things I would have said, hi, I'm a horror fan and I love dog soldiers.
Yep, for sure. How many times would you estimate that you've watched it?
At least 50.
That's a lot. That's a whole lot of times. I'm trying to think if I have. I know I've watched A Christmas Story at least 50 times because that's just... And we've been fans of it since it came out in the theater. Yeah. So my family hooked onto it early. But horror movies, I don't think I come close to 50 for any of them. House of the Devil, I'd like to go hit 50 one day.
I've seen Jaws. Hunter and I went through this.
Oh, God.
I've seen Jaws. If I watched it once a year, you know, but I've watched it more because whenever it's on.
Yeah. So
if you count like partial watchings and adding them, it's more than 50, but 50's a lot for any fan of anything.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you hit 50, you get to write about the movie. So Jack, get on it. There's no books about Jaws.
Yeah, there's no books about Jaws. I want to do a Monster Men panel discussion about Jaws, and there's a couple of people out there, like I know Jans is a big fan, and a couple of other people. I want to get like the Jaws super fan panel someday and do a Jaws show.
That'd be cool.
So tell us about the book itself. Like, kind of get into the guts of the book and what people can expect when they dive in, because I was actually pleasantly surprised by how much is in there.
So the one thing that I really wanted to make sure was that it came across about how much that I enjoy the film, obviously. So I very much used my voice. It's like me having a conversation with somebody, telling them about the movie, but not just me saying this happens and that happens. I wanted to be able to speak to as many people involved as possible so that I could add in the anecdotes and the stories and how this was done and how that was done. So I knew I wasn't just going to speak to Neil and Sean Pertwee and Kevin Mckidd and people like that. I wanted to go in and speak to as many people as possible. So that included the special effects guys, the composer of the music, the producers, the set designer, just, you know, loads and loads of people to be able to get those different perspectives and sort of how it was very much a team effort because, you know, yes, Neil had this amazing idea, the script that took him like 6 years to write and to make, but there were so many other people involved in that process. And even spoke to a couple of his friends from university that had been there through sort of the progression from him having this idea to it actually coming to fruition. And I think once you've got the whole picture, then it makes it so much more interesting because you could be like, oh, wow, I never thought about that, you know, like setting that music and doing this bit of the dialogue and speaking to the actors and finding out how much they ad-libbed and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of backstory to it, which I think just makes it all that more interesting. Hopefully, anyway.
I think it did. Did the director, did he give you kind of like, was he the one hooking you up with all these interviews? Was he kind of your conduit for all that?
Yes, very much so. Again, without Neil, I probably wouldn't have spoken to barely any of these people because I wouldn't have known how to contact them. Some of the actors, when I spoke to their agents said no, they weren't interested. And then when I actually spoke to them, because Neil gave me their personal phone numbers and things like that, we're like, of course I want to talk to you. But it's that kind of agent thing where you can't always, and you know, that's not the fault of the agent. That's their job to kind of, you know, do that kind of thing. But yeah, without Neil's help, I wouldn't have had most of these people, I would imagine, because I wouldn't have known how to contact them. Because a lot of them were just through Facebook and things like that as well. Because obviously Neil was like, Janine's writing this, I can vouch for her. Can you please speak with her and that kind of stuff. And even the people that I did like with the famous fans section, you know, there's people like James Wan. I would have never known how to contact him, but Neil had his email address, and so we spoke with him and things like that.
That's
Joe
pretty
Dante
cool.
and John Landis, again, I would have never ever got hold of them.
All right, so we need to go through some of these people that you talked to because I have not opened up the file you sent yet. He read the book and I watched the movie.
See, we covered both bases.
Yeah. So I wanted to. My next question was going to be, can you tell us some of the actors? And because we're not as fluent in you, is like, who's the actor? Who do they play? And where we may have seen them. For the uninformed, but now that you've mentioned John Landis and James Wan, I think we need to go into that too. So do some name dropping here.
Okay,
yeah,
so
there's some big names.
Our forward is from Joe Dante.
Oh wow!
And then the afterward is John Landis. So yeah, because that obviously American Werewolf in London and The Howling were two major influences on Neil making this in the first place. And both of them were, as soon as I emailed them and said, hi, could you do this? They were like, yes, I love Neil. I love this film. I'm more than happy to be a part of it, which was just like, when you speak to people like that, it really is a kind of like, oh my God, I just had a conversation. Joe Dante.
That also makes me take a minute because we always are pitting these movies against each other. Well, it's not this now. Like, meanwhile, they're all friends and rooting for each other. It's like, maybe you have a pecking order, but you can like all of them.
Yes.
Definitely.
By the way, kudos on getting John Landis to write the afterward, and it wasn't 100 pages long. Because he could talk. He can talk.
Yeah. And I have to say, you know, there's this old adage, isn't there? Like, don't meet your heroes and don't peek behind the curtain. And I have heard horror stories about some people in Hollywood, but I can say, hand on heart, every single person that I spoke to was really, really lovely and, you know, professional and polite and just like, oh, yeah, there were a couple of people that said they couldn't do it for whatever reasons, but they weren't like, they actually responded, you know, and said, I love Neil, I love this film, but I'm just, I just can't. Del Toro was one. I spoke to Del Toro. That's just amazing. And he's like completely immersed in whatever he's doing at the moment. And he said, good luck with the project, but I just can't give you any time. And there was a couple of people like that, but there's absolutely nobody that I've turned around and said, I want nothing to do with it or all that kind of stuff. Everyone was just so nice.
Well, luckily no one said, "Oh, I've seen you on Monster Bin." No. No way.
That was it. Oh,
That's because most people haven't seen Monster Bin.
Oh yeah, that's true. That works in our favor.
Because obviously I was also, all these people love Neil and they love the movie, but none of them have got a fucking clue who I am. So they could have turned me away at the first instant and been like, yeah, of course you're writing something about Neil, whatever. Yeah. But luckily they were like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I want to do that. So yeah, we've got Joe Dante and John Landis. They're the two big ones because obviously they're like bookending the actual book. And then we decided to get some famous fans to see what they thought of the movie. So we've got I've got to try and remember people now. Mick Garris,
nice.
James Wan, Corin Hardy, who if you don't know, he's the director of The Nun. From the Conjuring universe, but also he's really big at the minute with Gangs of London, which is a big TV show over here. Mm-hmm. Simon Pegg.
Oh wow!
He was supposed to play Spoon, the part of Spoon, originally, so we managed to speak to him. Edgar Wright.
Wow.
Adam Caesar.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Adam Caesar. Matt Serafini and Stephen Graham Jones, because I wanted to get some authors in there as well. I know I'm going to blank on someone big probably now.
That's you.
Yeah, I think you save some for the book.
Yeah.
How about the actors in the movie? Because I know that's the big thing for you.
Yeah. So Sean Pertwee, who obviously plays Sergeant Wells, and is now probably most well known for being in Gotham. And he's lovely, and he actually lives 20 minutes up the road from me, which is just bizarre. When I was talking to her, I was like, we could wave out the window.
You're gonna hand deliver a book to him when it's ready?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Who else have we got? Liam Cunningham, who again is now best known for Game of Thrones. He was lovely. He was really nice. He was in the middle of, he was just about to go off and start filming something else, but he managed to find some time for me, so that was really nice. Kevin Mckidd, who is just amazing. He was the hardest to talk to because he's over in LA, but he is very famous over in the USA because he's in Grey's Anatomy. So he's been in Grey's for about the last 10 years, and he directs some of the episodes as well. So he's probably the most successful out of them. And then I did speak to some of the others. I spoke to Darren Morford, who plays Spoon, and Les Simpson, who plays Terry. But neither of them are really doing much now. Quite a few of the actors actually stepped away from acting sort of over the last few years or so.
Right. Wow. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that British actors just keep going. And you could be like Judi Dench is to me the example of stage, screen, gets older, says, I'm going to do as time goes by for the next 9 years. It's a TV show. I'll go do some movies. I'll do some James Bond movies. They just keep going. It's amazing to me. Here, not so much. They're just all right, I'm done. Unless you're Clint Eastwood, it'd be making
either that or the industry says they're done with you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't look so good anymore. Done.
I heard Dustin Hoffman once talking about it. He goes, yeah, I was the hot thing for a while. And then there was a day where suddenly, instead of being called to be the husband, I was being called to be the grandfather. And there's less grandfather roles than there are husband roles.
And there's less that are willing to set their ego aside to play the grandfather role.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was at Chinese food last night, and there's this little 8-year-old girl who her parents work the place, and she's like your greeter. Hi, how are you? Sit down. I'm eating a cupcake. Look, it's purple. And she starts talking, and she looks at me. She goes, "Do you have any grandkids?" I was like, "No, but I have children." And then she wanted them. I said, they're 24 and 22. She goes, can they come play with me? Can you call them right now? Do you have a video of them? I said, I love this kid. I hated her, then I loved her.
Oh.
So now, when you put this book together, did you have a roadmap for what it was going to look like? I want a section on this. I want a section on this. I want photos and stuff. Like what, or was it just, let me see what I get and I'll figure it out?
A little bit of both. So I kind of had this idea because when Neil mentioned that he wanted to do it, he referenced a book called You've Got Red on You, which is the book about Shaun of the Dead. Which Clark Collis has written, and he said that if we could try and do something along those lines, then that would be quite cool. So I actually, I've got the book, and I actually spoke with Clark. We had a Zoom call, and he was really, really helpful about different ways to like set it out and that kind of stuff. So I had some advice about it, but it kind of just all came quite organically. Like basically, it's done from, you know, like this is. There's a tiny section on Neil like growing up, and then this is when he got the idea, this is when he started putting things together, this was the cast, this was the film, this is what happened after, that kind of stuff. So it was quite easy to put it together in that kind of respect. And then when I interviewed people, I just had set questions that I wanted to ask, and although I've included the interviews in full at the back, I used just little snippets of the conversation throughout as well. So I would listen back and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's something I can put in, and just constantly was adding bits and pieces into the manuscript as I went.
And it's very truly in your voice.
Yeah.
Because reading, I'm like, oh, that's Janine. Yeah. For sure. But that's what I liked it. I liked so much about it. And you don't even have to know you personally like we do to really get the enthusiasm and the love that you have for it, and your little like asides that you throw in there every now and then. I thought it was just... It was so cool. It just made me think, I'm like, man, I want to do this, but what movie would I do?
Yeah.
You know? And I think it might be House. If Ty West, if you're listening, and I know you are, if you want House of the Devil, I'm your man right here. And I'm not far from the house where it was filmed, so.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, You Got Red on You. Now that you mention that, that's one of my favorite movies. I probably need to go seek that book out. I love books like this. I have other like crazy things that I'm a fan, like The Night Stalker and stuff like that. Anything that's written about that, I'm like, I need that. I need to know more.
Yeah, I wish there were more books like this. I mean, you'll have novelizations of movies, but I think we need more fan love books. You know, somebody who's really passionate like you are, and who gets the access, and who can give us all the stuff. I mean, a lot of times you get books and it's a lot of like the behind the scenes, but it's like the dirt.
Yes.
You know what? If you want dirt, go on the internet. That's all the internet is dirt. And most of it's fake. I want the real stuff. Like, why do I love that movie so much? And I hope everybody who made it loved making it as much as I loved watching it. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to see.
What's a story that you didn't know ahead of time, without giving away the best stuff in the book? But what's something that you're like, wow, I never knew that. That's so cool.
There wasn't much.
What did she not know?
Yeah. But there were some really just like, they're not really like mind-blowing bits, but just little bits and pieces about sort of like things that the cast did, sort of things like there was a word that Kevin Mckidd made up, and he just shouted one day, and then for the rest of the time, like they were filming, like whenever somebody did something, they would like use that term, and it's just like all those little bits which really just showed that they were having a good time. You know, sort of what you see in that film of like obviously them being a tight knit unit, they really were. You know, Kev called it a true bromance. You know, the guys really did bond. And you can see that on screen, but it's apparent, and it was quite funny. It's like some of them haven't, especially like Kev, he's over in America now, so he hasn't actually seen these guys for quite some time. They haven't all worked together again for a long time. But speaking to each of them individually, it's almost like they'd been coached on what to say, but they hadn't, because they hadn't seen or spoken to each other for such a long time. But the passion that they had for that film, you know, a lot of them will say it's the best movie that they ever made, because it was just fun, and because Neil is such a good guy to work with. And I think that's apparent as well, because so many of them have gone on and worked with him time and time again. You know, like Sean Pertwee's on like his 4th movie with him, and he can get work doing anything he wants. You know, he doesn't have to be working with Neil, but he chooses to. And vice versa with Neil. You know, he could have all these different actors if he wanted to, but he chooses to use the ones that he trusts. It's like he's built this family. And it was really nice. It literally was, like I said, if somebody had told me a story and said, don't use this in the book, but so-and-so was actually a complete dick and whatnot. But there was absolutely nothing. There was nothing at all that people were like, you know, bitching about or anything. It was, they had a bloody good time.
That probably comes from when you said that Neil had a rule, no dicks on set.
Yep.
So, which was odd because there was a lot of guys on set. So I guess they were all units. No.
How about the special effects? Because a lot of werewolf movies are make or break on what the werewolf looks like, and they did a good job of hiding the werewolves enough, but showing them enough. But there's moments, especially towards the end, the term dog soldiers. There's times where they really look canine. Like, what did you learn there, like about the look and the special effects?
So that was definitely on purpose. That was the look that Neil wanted. And he knew that he was never going to do it. Because the one thing that is always criticised for is that there isn't a transformation scene. People say that over and over, you know, it can never be the best werewolf movie because we don't see the transition. This was made on a real shoestring. You know, this was like basically all hands on deck because they didn't have enough people doing stuff. So he knew there was no way he could afford to do a transformation. And he didn't want to compete with John Landis anyway. The best one had already been done. So they put a lot of time and effort and money into obviously the werewolf costumes. And a lot of that came down to Dave Bonnywell, who was the designer, who we've actually got doing the front cover for the book. So it's like it's come full circle. The guy who designed the original werewolves is designing our book cover, which will be cool. But Neil he wanted it to be very much for it to look like a wolf, you know. There's pictures in the book of like the different heads that they had in things, because some of them were fully animatronic and then some of them were just pure heads that they could use as well, because they knew that they were going to get beaten up and stuff like that. And he knew that he wanted them to be bipedal, and again there's that kind of like that look. Obviously they're so tall because they were wearing stilts. They've got stilts of about, you know, sort of like that big that they're wearing to make the guys even taller. But there's not a lot of hair on them apart from the face, and that was mainly because they couldn't afford it. So it's like little things like that. They couldn't afford to do a full, you know, furry costume. But I think it makes them look even scarier because you know, they definitely, you know, you've got films like The Howling, which is an amazing film, but they kind of look like the actual wolves, like dogs running around with a hairy head on. That's it. And he knew that he didn't want it to be like that. He wanted them to look like they were men that had turned into wolves. So, yeah.
Sometimes those budget restrictions help.
Exactly.
I mean, not sometimes. I would think most times, because you're forced to be creative and inventive and try different things.
Go back to Jaws. I mean, all the stuff you're like that movie might not have been as good if they could have done all the stuff they originally wanted to do.
Yeah. Probably would have been total schlock. Be right up there with Grizzly 2.
You know, so did you speak with the woman, the lone woman in this movie?
Unfortunately not. Emma is no longer acting, so she doesn't want to be in the spotlight or anything like that. So Neil is still in touch with Emma, and he asked if she wanted to be a part of it, and she politely declined. So again, it wasn't one of those kind of like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. It was I've got, you know, no interest in acting anymore. I don't want to be part of it. I wish you well, but I don't want to do it, kind of thing. So, which was a shame because it's such a male orientated film, but, you know, one of the only women in it, and we didn't manage to speak to her. But as I say, it was no ill feelings or anything like that. She just didn't want to, and that's fair enough.
And look who wrote the book, Janine. Not James, Janine.
No. And again, they thought, Neil and the guys involved thought that was really important as well, because again, it's so male dominated. It is such a masculine film and all that kind of stuff. To be able to have a female perspective on it was helpful for them as well.
Now, being a super fan, one thing that Hunter and I have been doing this podcast and stuff for a long time, and just the love of horror is something that can bond people. But then when you find somebody who likes something so niche, that can escalate. So like if you and I had just not met because of podcasts, but we met in real life, and then one of us accidentally said something about Dog Soldiers, like, oh, I love that movie. Suddenly you go from strangers to, buddies.
Yep.
By doing this and talking to other fans, like, have you had those kinds of like bonding moments, or what has the interaction with other fans been like?
So not necessarily other fans, but I've kind of made some good friends with people on the film that have been involved in it. So again, because I think I was coming from such an honest place as well, that I was just wanting to go in and be like, hi, I love you, you're so amazing. That people have been like just willing to kind of talk to me about stuff as well. So I've had like some of the special effects guys have been like, oh, if you come over to America, you should, like if you get any of your stuff made into films, I'll do your special effects and all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. Things like that. And I have met some other people, like Adam Caesar, for example. I didn't know that he was a massive Dog Soldiers fan, and then when he found out what I was doing, it was like, oh my god, that's so amazing, I absolutely love that film. So I was like, oh, do you want to write something for me? So kind of it was more people that I already knew that suddenly were like, oh my god, I really love Matt Serafini as well. He was like, oh, I'd really like to write something for you.
Right. So
it's that kind of thing. But I've yet to meet someone who's like, fucking hell, Dog Soldiers, that's a pile of shit. Everyone likes it, at least. I don't think anyone would dare say that to me, though. I'd be like,
they better not now. Yeah, exactly. You're going to meet all the fans once the book is out. That's the thing. Yeah. That's when you're going to start connecting with all these people who really love it as much as you do.
Because the Scream article is out now, and the Fangoria one is out now as well. Although I haven't got either copies at the moment, people have been tagging me on social media as well, like, oh, this I've just read this article and stuff. And I had someone today messaged me on Twitter. It came through as like a request because I don't know who it is, and you're always a bit dubious when you go into your DMs and you're like, oh fuck, what's this gonna be? And it was like, hi Mrs. Pipe, which I thought was quite, it made me feel like a teacher or something. I loved your Dog Soldiers article, can I ask you some questions about it? Which was just completely random, but it was still quite nice though.
Yeah, no, you'll get more of that for sure.
Yeah.
I predict, just like when the pandemic started and we started seeing them on YouTube all the way, these reunions, like, it's all the Community cast together. Janine's going to host the Dog Soldiers Zoom YouTube reunion.
That would be amazing.
I want it to be in person. Let's just get together and hug. That's what I want to see. In the woods.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Have a reunion in the woods.
House in the woods.
Did they have... So they blow up a house.
Yeah.
So did they just have like two identical lots? Like, did they get into that, or did they actually blow up a house?
Well, it all gets revealed in the book. But,
okay.
Yeah. So I won't say any more on that, but things did really get blown up. Yes.
All right. Now, talking about blowing up, can you tell us the name of your publisher who is putting this book out for you?
Yes. It's
Go ahead.
Encyclopocalypse.
All right. She said it slowly, cautiously. Yeah. We were warned ahead of time.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark, for the worst name in the world.
You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to email me that so I can put it in the show notes.
This is like, we have a weatherman here in New York who can't say meteorologist, even though he is one. So he just kind of like, I'm your meteorologist. So just says it so fast. Like, oh. And I heard him admit, he goes, yeah, I can't say that word. so funny.
It's such an annoying name. It really is. I could have to start shortening it to something else, and I can't spell it either. So who knows?
Now, this book is done. This is in the can.
Yes.
Do they have you? Are they picking your brain for the next movie that they want you to dive into? You don't have to reveal anything.
Well, we have hopefully got something else sorted out, and it will be more stuff with Neil, basically. Yeah, hopefully it will a nice long working relationship with Mr. Marshall.
I know a movie I'd like to see a book on of his. Jack, The Descent.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing.
When does this book? Good.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, if this does well, that is the plan, to do The Descent next, because that will be having its 20th anniversary in 25. So yeah,
wow.
That's the plan.
Now,
already
there's a movie that in any horror conversation, when that one comes up, you stop and go, "Oh, yeah, The Descent." That's just
bonkers. It's like, to me, like the monster movies, it's Alien and The Descent, two of the best monster movies ever made.
What when does this book come out, like in hardcover and all that?
Fingers crossed for May.
Any day in May, or just May?
Just May at the moment, because
Okay.
it's ready. The book is ready, as Hunter's obviously seen. We're just waiting on the cover at the moment.
Right.
So
Okay.
as soon as that comes and it's passed and approved by Mark at the press, then yeah, it will be out.
I'm gonna give you a little suggestion, because I use this. My next book is coming out in May, and my publisher said, "When do you want it out?" I said, "There's a Friday the 13th in May. That's when I want it out. So, come on, let's be book buddies together on Friday, May 13th.
That'd be awesome.
Float that idea."
That is amazing. So yeah, so back to The Secret. I think you are fueled on dreams and goodwill. So let's give you some kudos right now, because I think you kind of stormed onto the scene, and what I watch from you is you like say you want to do something, and then you do it, and you get support from people, but you're constantly retweeting and thanking people and building people up, and in the slosh of Twitter of negativity, twatter. You're like, consensus is like you're like the most positive person on social media in whatever this horror community thing is. But I just want to tip my cap to you, because you do, like everybody was saying, like don't just sit around, get up and do it. And you're the one who keeps doing, I want to start a podcast, and then you do it. I want to write a book, whatever, the collection, like all that stuff. And then like a few months later, you have it done, so you keep like climbing these mountains.
Yeah. You're always reimagining yourself, and you're taking chances, but you do it. Most people fart around and talk about the things that I want to do that. I'd love to be that. I can be. You just do it, and you do. And you're funny as hell, and you're always smiling. And I've even hung out with you on Zoom when you don't have to be on, and you're hysterical, and you put up with a lot of bullshit with the people we all watch movies with. By the way, I'm always impressed by that. But yeah, you are like that rare positive force that's out there, and I think that's why things come to you. Whereas Jack and I are just like a couple of old pairs of underpants that the world just doesn't care about.
Everybody calls us the old men from the Muppet Show, and we don't argue with that.
We agree.
That's a compliment. They're awesome.
Thank you very much. Remember when we were Fozzie Bear and Kermit, but those days are over. Get out of my balcony. So, I mean, I can't wait to actually have a copy of the book in my hand. I didn't realize that the articles, so it's in the new issue of Fangoria?
Yes. Yeah,
right,
the one that's got the Ty West X on the front, yeah.
Can you get individual copies of Fangoria, or do you have to subscribe?
You can get them.
Okay.
They're in Barnes & Noble now.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, you can go pick one up. Yeah, I know the subscription is like, I don't know. Getting so cheap.
I might go take a ride after this.
Gas is getting so expensive here. You can't afford anything.
I need some bourbon, so maybe I'll take a ride out, reload, and stop at the old magazine shop while I'm there.
The old magazine shop. You can only go away from the magazines that are just in the plastic.
Yeah.
And walk over to the other section, ones that you could show the kids.
We used to have a really great, it's got cigars and newspapers and all that kind of stuff, and an awesome magazine rack. It's been so long since and it's around the corner for me, but it's been so long since I've been out in public or anything. I'm hoping it's even still there.
They probably, if it's selling like tobacco and lotto tickets, it's there.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't squash those places.
Will they have Fangoria?
It might have an issue of Jugs from 1988. I don't know if it'll have Fangoria. Never know. So yeah, this is fantastic. Where can people find out more about you, the book, everything that is the world of Janine and sausages? And are you going to put out a recipe on making sausages and like a little video on you making sausage?
No.
Oh,
is that your favorite?
Italian.
Is that your favorite pizza topping? Because it is
No,
mine.
I'm vegetarian, so it's even worse.
Oh, by the way, you've been talking. You have a book, Sausages. Jack was on a TV show, and I was sitting next to him when they filmed us, and he said the pizza was sausagelicious.
Oh,
I have the clip.
And we've called Jack sausagelicious every now and then for years.
My friend made a shirt with my face in that saying.
Oh, it's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. The place I'm most active is Twitter. So Janine Pipe 28. And then if you follow the press, Encyclopocalypse.
That was good.
Yeah, they're very good with the social media stuff as well. They have a website, but it hasn't been updated on there yet. But I imagine it will be. I don't think we're going to bother with a pre-order because hopefully we get the cover and then boom, it'll be ready to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll be buying my copy.
Oh yeah.
Faux shizzle. So yeah, thank you for coming on. You know you're welcome on anytime.
Thank you.
It's good to see a stalker make her dreams come true.
Well, we also
Exactly. Yes.
don't fool yourself. As we watch you progress, we're totally latching on to you. So, once you're big and famous, you don't forget about us.
That's really. I mean, come on.
This is true. Yeah. Well, I've already got. So there are certain people in the book that have asked me, obviously, like to send them autographed copies, as in Joe Dante and John Landis.
Oh, awesome.
Me,
Oh, so you have their address?
Yeah, and that's just mad as well. There's kind of like this. It's quite humbling, really, like a circle of trust with these people now that they not only they do this stuff for you, but they trust you with things like home addresses of like famous people, which is just mad. Yeah. But the thought that I am going to be sending something I've written and signed to somebody like that is just like,
yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. We're proud. We're so proud. All right, Jack, I leave it to you.
Okay, Janine, thank you. Continued good luck. And everybody out there, watch for May, Friday the 13th, around that time. Buy the book. Tell us how much you love it. And we will see you all next time on Monster Men.
Monster Men.
Monster